Hi, my beautiful people. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sonia's Into Another World News. I know it's been a minute since I've posted anything, but I'm back tonight. So I thought I would do another episode of Sasquatch sightings. But before I get to the stories of Sasquatch sightings, I want to talk a little bit about these balloons shoot down and these aerial objects. So there's been four now. So we had the one that was shot down, the Chinese spy balloon that China confirmed that was theirs. Well, they said it was a weather balloon. The U.S. said it was a spy balloon, but you clearly, it pretty much probably was a spy balloon. They had all this equipment and this payload thing hanging underneath it. And then you had the three unidentified aerial objects that were shot down, one over Alaska. I think two were shot down over Canada. They said one was spherical. My dog making all that noise over there. I seen what she was doing. One was, I think they said spherical, grayish in color, about the size of a car. I don't know what the descriptions of the other one was, but I think the other ones were, I think, smaller than the Chinese spy balloon. But so far, the military hasn't said what they are. They didn't say they were weather balloons or spy balloons. They just said they were unidentified aerial objects, and that's all we got. And that's probably all we're going to get from them, because they're not going to tell us the truth, whatever they are. Anyway, back to this Chinese weather balloon. So this thing showed up off the East Coast first, coming across Montana. Came all the way across the United States, and they didn't shoot it down until they got all the way across by South Carolina, and then they shot it down. I'm pretty sure NORAD had to have tracked this thing, I would think, before it actually made landfall when it was over close by Montana. They claim they didn't shoot it down because of debris and they didn't want people to get hurt. I don't know if that was the real reason, but anyway, they let this thing come across all the way across the United States and take whatever images it wanted to take. And they said this thing had like maneuverable capabilities, that it could be maneuvered. So I don't know if China was controlling it remotely. Either way China say this thing veered off course. What gets me with these this so-called weather spy balloon was that China was still using cameras attached to it. I thought when you had satellites in space, you wouldn't need to have spy balloons with resolution cameras on there. I mean, that's the purpose of you launching spy satellites up in space, because you can snap images of other countries, whatever. So this made me think about the late Carl Wolf. Now, I'll show you guys a clip of him from my computer. So, back in the 60s, he was a sergeant in the Air Force. He was young at the time, I think in his 20s. And he was, what are my notes? I know he worked in electrical, where is it? So, Sergeant Carl Wolf, he was a photographic technician. He had a background in electrics, and he was in the Air Force. So during his time there, he got called. His commander general asked him to go work on some kind of photographic equipment for the NSA. He thought they said NASA at the time. I'm sure some of you guys probably know who this guy is, but he thought they meant NASA at the time, but it was actually the NSA, the National Security Agency. So his commander sent him over to this facility, and he was supposed to be working on this equipment for the lunar program, the Lunar Orbiter Base program, whatever. It was computerized contact printing equipment located in the NSA facility. So he got there, and he was brought into this lab, and there was another technician in the lab, and they were looking at the equipment, and they couldn't get it to work. So Carl Wolf had told him, well, we're going to have to bring this equipment out of the lab to work on it and go somewhere else. Anyway, when he got to the NSA facility, he said there was all these formal, high-ranking people there. He didn't know why they were there, and it was just weird or whatever. But I'm not going to go into the whole story, because you guys can look him up on YouTube. Anyway, so he said that, so I guess the the satellites are up in space. They go around the planet. They're all connected or around the world or whatever. And they, if I'm explaining this right, he said something about radio telescopes around the world that were connected, and they telemeter data into Langley Field. That's what it was. So these satellites would go around and take an image of the moon, and they would build a mosaic. They would go around, record, go around, take another image, go around and take another image. It would build up like a mosaic. And he said the images were detailed, very clear. And he said the technician who was with him had told him, by the way, we found a bases on the backside of the moon. And he said there was these tall mushroom, like towering structures, like huge structures that look like radar dishes, but they were like massive structures. And he said what gets him was that he thought he was going to hear about it on the news, and like weeks went by and nothing. But the main thing about what he said was that the work that they were doing with these satellite photos could read images. These satellites or whatever could read images from outer space. The resolution on these things were so amazing. You can read the license plate off somebody's car. I'm gonna play it for you from my computer, so I'm just gonna show it. Hold on, let me find it. Him talking about it.
Years ago, I actually sold them all in a yard sale because I was tired of carrying.
He was talking about some photographs he had.
I may have a couple of them filed away
So
someplace.
we're gonna just ignore that
probably
part.
One of the biggest mistakes I've ever
But it wasn't no
made. What was
photograph with
really
like
interesting
alien,
is I'm not sure what
bases
the
or whatever.
resolution
It was
of
just
those
lunar
photographs
images.
were,
But he
but
sold
I
them or whatever
know
in the yard sale.
that we could discern from the satellite photography we were doing at our installation. You could read the license number off a car at that point in time. So I know we had that level of technology available. Whether or not it was on that lunar orbiter, I don't know. This also always brings to question, in my mind, why we're getting such low resolution on photographs that we receive from Mars and any of these other missions. The resolution of these photographs is very low, when we've had since the early 60s the capability of much higher resolution. So I'm not sure what that's all about. That question always comes up in my mind.
It always comes
If I
into my
compare
mind
it to what
too.
I'm seeing now, because I do have photographs that have artifacts in them that are similar to what I saw, they're massive. Some of the structures are, half a mile in size. So
Okay, we're going to
huge
end it there.
structures.
So this goes back to why is the Chinese using weather balloons with cameras on them? Because China's pretty much over our level, I think, basically with technology. So they have to have satellites up in space that can take really good images like our spy. And he's talking about satellites. This was in the 60s now, mind you, that could read the license plates off somebody's car from up in space. Can you imagine the technology we have now? If they could do this in the 60s. And he's right. Why are we getting these grainy photos of the Mars and other planets and the moon when they had this technology back in the 60s that could read images of somebody's freaking license plate on their car? I just don't get it. But that's the Department of Defense. That's NASA for you. They don't want us to really see what's going on, so they feed us these grainy images that supposedly they don't have better technology. Obviously they do. This was back in the 60s. Back in the 60s. This brings me back to why was China using high resolution cameras on a weather balloon when they probably have satellites up in space that can do the same thing our satellites was doing back in the 60s. Reading lights. I don't know. I'm just guessing, so I don't know. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Anyway, as far as these other 3 objects that were shot down, 1 over Alaska, 2 over Canada, I don't know. I don't think these things are... I'm not sure if these things are of ET origin. I'm not feeling that. I mean, these things were moving slow. You really think ET is going to just come up there and let us shoot them down? And, I mean, this goes back to the Tic Tac. off the coast of California with David Fravor encountered 2004. This thing was incredibly fast. It kept evading him. There was no way he was gonna be able to lock on and shoot that thing down. Then you had the object seen off the coast of um, Florida in 2015, where this thing was a clear round like a ball with a cube inside, and those guys could not catch this thing. So they couldn't get close enough to catch this thing and shoot it down. So that's why I'm just not thinking that the objects that we're seeing over Alaska and over Canada, I just don't think these are of ET origin. I'm just not. I could be wrong, but I'm just not feeling that it is. Whatever it is, we're not going to get any truth from our government or military. They're not going to tell us what it is. So I don't know. That's just what it is. It goes back to like Roswell and stuff. How at first they came out and said that it was the Army Air Force had captured a flying saucer. Then it went to a weather balloon. And I have no doubt that the Army Air Force back in the 40s still used to launch weather balloons, because they did have a Project Mogul. They used to launch secret spy balloons up in the atmosphere. They did used to launch weather balloons because people who lived in that area said that weather balloons were land on their property. So people back there knew what a weather balloon was. So Jesse Marcel knew what a weather balloon was because they used to launch them from the air military base back in Roswell. So he would have known what a weather balloon was. And compared to a spaceship or an alien ship from outer space. Come on now. Anyway, I just don't see why China would still be putting, I don't know. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. I'm just very curious. But if anybody think we're going to get any information about what these objects are that were shot down over the U.S., we're not going to get the real truth out of our government, our military. So don't hold your breath on that. I don't. And also, check out Roderick Martin over at Why the Big Secret on YouTube. He was talking about this too. And he does a fabulous show. He has great content. So I suggest you guys check him out. Also check out Richard Dolan. He has his Richard Dolan members. If you want to sign up to be part of his membership, or you can watch his show on Tuesday because he does free content on Tuesday. But if you want to be part of his membership, I think it's $8.99 a month, which I'm a part of. But like I said, he does free content, a show on Tuesday on YouTube. But he does really great content. So check out the both of them. Okay, so now into the Sasquatch stories. I'm going to read a couple. And so I found my old magazine. A magazine. I don't remember where I bought this magazine from, how long. I know I've had it for a while. I found it at work because I take books with me to work to read. And I was going through my books. I'm like, oh, my magazine. And I cannot remember where I bought this magazine from. But it has Sasquatch stories and encounters in here. So I'm going to read a couple for you. So this one story is from 1956. Hairy creature grabs two in their sleeping bag. In May of 1956, near Marshall, Michigan, three friends were sleeping out in the woods when a huge hair-covered creature with green eyes as big as light bulbs and smelling like something rotten. You know, you get a lot of stories of people who encounter Sasquatch said they smell something foul coming from Sasquatch. So I think there's some truth to that. And smelling like something rotten, picked up Otto Collins and Philip Williams in their sleeping bags with one arm under each. Their companion Herman Williams grabbed his white rifle, which scared the Bigfoot, who then dropped the men and ran into the woods. We don't know if Bigfoot was trying to abduct the young men or just trying to scare them, but the encounter certainly terrified the men. I bet it did. That's from 1956. So then we have one from 1957, Bigfoot picks up a hunter's deer. In autumn of 1957, Gary Jonas and Jim Newell were hunting in the area of Wagnona Butte near Bend, Oregon, and Jonas had shot a deer. However, before the two could walk over to the dead deer, a 9-foot hairy creature came into the clearing and I think they meant to put pick the entire deer, but they put and picked the entire deer up and began to carry it back into the woods under one arm. Jonas was angry that his deer was being stolen and fired repeatedly into the back of the Bigfoot with his 30.06 rifle. The Bigfoot did not stop walking but made a strange whistling scream. Jonas and Newell had no choice but to let the Bigfoot abscond with the deer. Bigfoot is known to have been shot on a number of occasions, but his thick skin, bones, and bulky body make it impossible to bring the massive critter down with shots to the upper body. It has been suggested that only the way to kill a Bigfoot is to shoot him through one of the eyes and sockets. Don't do that, people. Please don't shoot Bigfoot. That's why it's probably best if these creatures remain hidden. My goodness, people want to shoot birds. I'm not sure people are scared, but come on. Let me see. So we're gonna do 1958. Jerry Crew coins the term Bigfoot. On October 2nd, 1958, a road construction worker named Jerry Crew found unusually large footprints around his bulldozer on a road being constructed in Bluff Creek, California. Oh, so this was the guy that contacted the two guys who recorded the Patterson Gimlin film. I think it's Robert Patterson. So yeah, about the Bigfoot sighting prints around his equipment, and that's why they went out to that area to record, and they ended up recording Bigfoot on film. But anyway, back to the story. So in Bluff Creek, California, Crew was part of a team cutting a road in the wild Northern California area near the Oregon border where the Hoopa Indian Reservation is located. Thick forests with streams full of salmon are contained in a large area of wilderness and remote logging location. On that October day, J. Crew noticed a very clear footprint in the mud along the side of the road and in that rainy part of Northern California. But he had seen these footprints before, and this time he was prepared to make a plaster cast of the mysterious footprint. He then reportedly find, along with a photo of himself holding the first kind of plaster cast of a footprint. In the Crew story called The Maker of the Footprint Bigfoot, the Associated Press picked up the story along with Crew holding his plaster cast, and the name was suddenly in vernacular. And that's where Bigfoot came from. Also, there's an image of Jerry right there holding the plaster cast of the Bigfoot print. Very cool. So, let's see. Let me find another story in here. Oh, okay, here's one. 1965. Bigfoot bangs woman head inside car. In a curious encounter on August 17, 1965, 70-year-old Christine Van Acker was driving with her mother in the passenger seat through a wooded area near Monroe in very southeast Michigan. About halfway between Detroit and Toledo, Ohio, the windows of the car were rolled down on a hot August night, and as they rounded a bend, a large, dark Bigfoot stepped out of the forest onto the road. As in some great beat horror movie, in her startled terror, Christine meant to accelerate past the creature, but instead stepped on the brake, and the car came to a halt and stalled with the motor shutting off. Christine tried frantically to start the car again, and suddenly the Bigfoot put his huge hairy hand through the driver's window and grabbed her by the top of her head. Both women were now screaming, and Bigfoot banged Christine's head against the inside of the car as he suddenly left. Christine began honking her horn. Some nearby workmen heard the screams, and car horsemen came running to the road where they caught a quick glimpse of a 7-foot-tall creature. Christine suffered a black eye and said the creature must have weighed 300 or 400 pounds and had a strong, there it is, odor about it again. That strong smell. Also in 1965 was an early incident with the Fook monster, who is featured in the movie The Legend of Boggy Creek. A squirrel hunter from Fook, Arkansas, named James Crabtree, only 14 years old, was out squirrel hunting near his home when he was startled to hear horses galloping and panic into a nearby lake. He then heard a dog howling in pain and ran toward it with his loaded shotgun in his hands. He suddenly came across an 8-foot-tall Bigfoot covered in 4-inch long reddish brown hair. It had long arms and turned to face the boy. The Bigfoot began to walk towards Crabtree, who then shot it in the face with a shotgun from a long distance. This did not stop the Bigfoot from advancing toward the teenager. Crabtree ran back to his house without looking back. I bet he did run back to his house without looking back. Let's see. other story here I want to read. So then they have images. Oh, there's an image up here of the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot. It's a frame from 1967. Right there, you can see Bigfoot from the back, which I think is legit. I actually think that Robert Patterson actually caught a real Bigfoot on film. Let me see. Let's see. Here it is. I'm going to read one more to you guys. This was 1967, Bigfoot eating rodents in Oregon. Janet and Colin Board tell an interesting tale which happened at the end of October 1967. A forest worker named Glenn Thomas had been operating a saw at nearly 6,000 feet on a mountainside near Escada, Oregon. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Thomas took a break from his work and walked down a trail into the woods. He came to a clearing where he saw 3 Bigfoot digging among the rocks. Thomas took them to be a Bigfoot family of mother, father, and child who were busy foraging for food. The group was sniffing at the various piles of rocks, and suddenly the male began digging furiously and throwing up large rocks, some that would weigh 100 pounds or more. He then brought out some sort of nest of rodents, Thomas thought. The trio chomped the rodents down in several bites each, and Thomas said he watched them for about 15 minutes. They then became aware of him and moved off into the forest. He described their faces as more cat-like than humans. Very interesting. Let's see. I know I said that was going to be the last one. I was trying to get one that's not too long in here. Yeah, I guess I will make that the last Sasquatch story for tonight. There's some really interesting images in here. Oh, there's another image of the Patterson Gimlin film from the front. You guys can see that without the glare. Very cool. Would I love to see one of these things? Yes. Do I want them to remain hidden from us? Yes, because I think awful things will happen to them if these creatures were truly discovered. But I would love to go into the woods to see one for myself without being attacked. But usually, most of the Sasquatch, some of them seem pretty. I guess generally they stay their distance from humans. But there's been occasion, like the stories I read here about the woman having her head banged. And there's another story here about another person, woman having her head grabbed through the car, and Sasquatch bangs her head inside of a car. So yeah, but I know some interesting cases. I'm always fascinated by these Sasquatch encounters. You have to listen to Native Americans tell their story about Sasquatch too. I say if you want to get to the heart and the truth of the matter, listen to Native Americans talk about Sasquatch and Star People and stuff. There's truth in what they say. I definitely believe there's truth in what they say if you want to get to like the real truth of it. But yeah. Oh, the other thing I wanted to show you guys was that, I don't know if I shared this with you, a couple months ago I bought Michael Schratt's book, Dark Files. If you guys don't know who Michael Schratt is, he's an aviation historian, he's an author, he's a researcher, he researches crash retrievals and people who've sighted like UFOs stuff. He doesn't get to like the whole abduction stuff. He's like a nuts and bolts type of person. But like I said, he's an aviation historian first, but he also researches this on the side. He has like cool images of people who've seen military I want to say alien crafts or possibly reverse alien crafts sitting in like military installations, like deep underground military witnesses who came out and stuff. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen his book, I suggest you get it. Let me see if I can give you some description. So he has an illustration in here from September 6, 1977, Kalusha, California. The orange juice here with tentacles. This is what someone cited over California in 1967. Very interesting. When I look at that, that made me think about one of these objects that were shot down. Because I listened to one of the spokespersons or some news channel tonight, some news reporter. She was telling me that someone gave a description that one of the objects that was shot down was octagon or something. It had like some type of ribbons or strings hanging from it. It made me think about that that image. So I don't know. Yeah, but that's very cool. Let's see what other image he got in here. But Michael Schratz does some really, really good illustration and sketches. I know he does it along with another gentleman he mentioned, because he was actually on Spaced Out Radio the other night with Dave Scott, and he was talking about illustration. He was showing images and illustrations, but he does some really, really good work. He has some incredible stories from people and information that he's dug up or whatever. But here's another one: a chilly encounter on the slopes. This was taken in January the 7th, 1970. Heinola, Finland. And there's an image up here of what two people witnessed. So yeah, I highly suggest you guys get this book if you haven't got it. Richard Dolan is coming out with another book too. He said he might be ready by the middle of the year, but it's going to be dealing with USOs, so I'm excited for that. So yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I got for you tonight. I will let you know your thoughts on these objects that are being shot down. Richard Dolan thinks there's just Chinese balloons coming, because I follow him and I will listen to his Sunday Fireside Chat. And his thoughts are that these things are possibly Chinese, and the U.S. aren't telling us the whole truth, which is possibly. Maybe the China is just testing our defenses and poking the bear, which is us, to see what our defenses are. So I don't know. I just don't think these things are possibly of ET origin. I could be wrong, but I don't think it is. I have to agree with him. I just don't think ET is just going to let us shoot down their objects. And these things were moving super slow, and they weren't trying to evade the military. So I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. That's it. That's all I got for tonight. I'm out. Bye.